My friends, there are moments in life when heaven leans close, moments when the veil between the natural and the supernatural becomes thin and God allows a whisper to reach your heart. Today, I want to talk about one of those moments when the angels themselves declare that something extraordinary is unfolding in your love story. Some of you have been waiting, praying, hoping, and believing that God would bring clarity to your heart. You've wondered if the person you love feels the same. You've questioned whether your patience has been in vain. But heaven has a message for you today, your soulmate's confession. Yes, their confession about marriage has shaken people, stunned hearts, and left witnesses speechless. This is not just a story of romance. It's a story of divine orchestration, story of God's timing, God's alignment, and God's purpose unfolding with precision and power. So open your heart, because heaven is speaking. When heaven reveals the hidden truth, often comes in moments we least expect. Quiet moments, soft moments, moments that do not shout, yet they shift the entire atmosphere of your life. This first keynote speaks to something sacred. The confession your soulmate made was not a simple statement, not a casual comment, not a moment of weakness or emotional instability. It was the release of a truth that had been buried deep inside their heart, a truth heaven had been patiently nurturing until the perfect moment arrived. Angels saw what you could not see. They heard what you did not hear. They witnessed the conversations your soulmate had with their own heart. Conversations filled with wrestling, uncertainty, longing, and awakening. And now the hidden truth has come to the surface because heaven determined it was time for revelation. Your soulmate has been carrying this feeling, this certainty, for longer than you realize. They tried to hide it from others, perhaps out of fear, pride, timing, or confusion. But they could not hide it from the presence of God. While you were praying for clarity, they were fighting for understanding. While you were asking for signs, they were battling emotions they could no longer ignore. While you were wondering if they cared, heaven was stirring a deeper realization inside them that you are the one their heart recognizes, the one their soul aligns with, the one their spirit finds peace in. Angels watched as this truth grew stronger, pressing against the walls your soulmate had built, until finally those walls could not hold it any longer. When the confession came out, more than a statement, it was the truth breaking free. And that is why people were left speechless. There is something astounding, almost heavenly about someone confessing not just affection but intention. People are accustomed to casual love, temporary feelings, uncertain commitments. But when someone speaks from that deep, unshakable place within themselves, carries a weight that even the listeners can feel. That is what happened. Those who heard the confession were stunned, not because your soulmate is dramatic, but because the sincerity in their words was undeniable. It was the kind of confession that feels guided, timed, and breathed upon by something greater than human emotion. Hidden truth had been shaping them long before they spoke it aloud. They found themselves thinking about a future with you in ways they had never planned. They imagined a life, a home, a commitment that once scared them, but now feels right, natural, and even necessary. And though they tried to silence these thoughts, heaven amplified them. Angels whispered in their quiet moments. Signs appeared when they were not searching. They felt a pull toward you that defied logic. They felt a peace with you that they could not manufacture. They felt a longing for you that grew even in distance. These were not accidents. These were divine confirmations. When the moment came for them to speak, it felt like heaven opened a door and pushed the truth into the light. That is why the confession surprised people. It carried a divine boldness. It exposed feelings your soulmate once guarded with everything in them. It revealed what they were too afraid to admit, brought clarity to what they once tried to deny. The hidden truth became a spoken truth, and the spoken truth became a sign that heaven is orchestrating something far greater than you imagined. Moment is important because it marks the unveiling of what God has been doing behind the scenes. When heaven reveals truth, it is never to confuse you, it is to confirm you. It is to reassure your heart that you were not imagining the connection, that your intuition was not mistaken, that your patience was not wasted. Angels are testifying that the love you felt was mutual, though hidden. The desire you sensed was real, though unspoken. The bond you carried in your spirit was not one-sided, divinely mirrored in your soulmate's heart. Heaven does not reveal truth to tease you. It reveals truth to prepare you. This confession was not meant to shock only those who heard it. It was meant to shift the spiritual atmosphere around your relationship. It was meant to show you that God's timing is unfolding, that His hand is guiding the story, that His purpose is leading both of you forward. Hidden truth becomes revealed truth only when the season of silence has ended, and according to heaven, that season has ended for you. God working behind the scenes is often the part of the story we cannot see, yet it is the most important part. When heaven says that God has been shaping your soulmate's heart long before their confession, it means that every hesitation, every delay, every confusing moment was not a sign of rejection. It was a sign of preparation. We tend to measure love by visible actions, but God measures love by the transformation happening deep within. While you were waiting for clarity, God was quietly positioning their emotions, thoughts, and desires into alignment with His purpose. Nothing about this connection was accidental. From the first moment your paths crossed, heaven began a process that neither of you fully understood at the time. Soulmate didn't wake up one morning suddenly ready to confess their feelings or speak about marriage. Kind of conviction comes from a journey, a spiritual journey, that involves wrestling with emotions, overcoming fears, healing past wounds, and learning to trust what God is revealing. Behind the scenes, God was softening their heart where it had once been hardened. He was opening their eyes where they once lacked vision. He was strengthening their courage where they once felt weak. In these quiet and hidden moments, God was doing work no human could take credit for. And because this work was divine, the confession that flowed out of them carried a weight that made people stop and listen. Many times, your soulmate felt the pull toward you, but couldn't understand it. They felt love, but didn't know how to express it. Felt connection, but weren't ready to embrace it. They felt destiny, but feared losing control. This internal battle is something heaven witnessed long before you had any clue. God allowed these struggles not to delay your union, but to deepen your soulmate's understanding of the love they have for you. If they had rushed toward you without this preparation, Their commitment would have been shallow, but God wanted their confession to come from a place of maturity, clarity, and spiritual grounding. There were moments when they tried to push the feelings away. They told themselves they weren't ready. They convinced themselves they should focus on other things. They distracted their heart with work, people, or responsibilities. But every time they tried to escape the truth, God brought them back to the same realization that you were the one their spirit recognized. Angels watched as God disrupted their patterns, disturbed their comfort zones, and redirected their path every time they drifted from what heaven had ordained. This divine pressure wasn't meant to overwhelm them, was meant to awaken them. As God worked behind the scenes, He was also protecting this connection in ways you didn't see. He kept distractions from becoming permanent replacements. He blocked relationships that would have pulled them away from their purpose. He silenced voices that tried to mislead their heart. Even when it looked like nothing was happening, God was preserving the bond between you both, ensuring that it stayed alive, protected, and ready for the right moment to unfold. Every delay was intentional. Every silence had purpose. Every pause was preparing them to rise with confidence instead of confusion. God also used time to reveal to your soulmate what life felt like without you fully in it. They noticed the emptiness. They noticed the missing piece. They noticed how other connections couldn't compare. Awareness didn't come from logic. It came from God stirring their spirit. Over time, God aligned their emotions with His plan, showing them that the love they feel for you is not a distraction, but a direction. And once their heart began to understand this, resistance became impossible. In quiet moments, late at night during prayer, in solitude, or even in unexpected places, God spoke to them, sometimes through conviction, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through signs that only they noticed. Heaven was guiding them step by step until their heart became strong enough to respond to the truth instead of running from it. When their confession finally came, it was not impulsive. It was the overflow of a heart God had been shaping in silence. Divine preparation is why their confession carried so much power. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't forced. Wasn't influenced by people. It was influenced by God alone. Heaven had already finished the work long before the words were spoken. So when the confession came, it broke through every barrier that once held them back. What you see now is only the fruit of what God cultivated in the unseen. The behind the scenes work is what makes this connection unshakable. The reason heaven is confident in this union. God has already prepared their heart, aligned their spirit, and positioned their life so that when the time comes to stand beside you, they will stand without fear, without doubt, and without hesitation. Fear can be one of the strongest forces holding a person back from the very blessing God is trying to give them. Your soulmate's journey has been marked by this quiet yet powerful battle. Fear whispering doubts, uncertainty clouding their vision, hesitation tightening their voice. But keynote 3 speaks to a divine turning point, the moment fear finally broke and courage began to rise. Shift didn't happen by accident. It happened because heaven intervened. When God wants to move someone toward their destiny, He begins by transforming their heart. And the first thing He often dismantles is fear. Your soulmate wasn't afraid. because they didn't care about you. They were afraid because they cared too deeply. Love of this depth can be overwhelming, especially for someone who has been hurt, disappointed, or misunderstood.